Welcome to Void Realities, a sanctuary for restless minds. Here, science becomes a lullaby, guiding you gently into the night. The secret life of trees, how forests talk to each other. Roots that listen beneath your feet, a hidden world stirs. Roots stretch like fingers, seeking touch, water, and whispers. In darkness, trees feel and respond, sensing far more than eyes can see. This is where the story of communication begins, in silence below the soil. When you stand among trees, it is easy to think that all the action happens above your head. You notice the branches swaying, the leaves catching sunlight, the gentle chorus of birds that find shelter among them. Yet if you close your eyes, if you imagine the soil softening under your feet, you begin to realize that the true life of a tree begins far below. In the dark earth, where no sunlight reaches, roots are listening. They stretch outward in silence, weaving pathways that connect, explore, and sense the world around them. Roots are not blind explorers, they are finely tuned instruments, alive with perception. Each tiny root tip is like a fingertip searching through the soil, brushing against grains of sand, touching stones, tasting minerals in the damp. They move slowly, but with intention. They know when they encounter a patch of richer soil, when water lingers, when another root approaches, and they respond. Imagine lying down on the ground, pressing your ear to the earth. The soil is not silent, it hums with a subtle pulse of life. Roots grow not only downward but outward, branching into threads so fine that they rival the thickness of a hair. These threads, called root hairs, extend the reach of a tree into hidden crevices of the soil. They do not simply anchor, they listen, they drink, they taste, they exchange. You might think of a tree as still, but beneath you it is moving constantly. Roots grow toward what they need, guided by gradients of water, pockets of nutrients, even chemical traces left by other organisms. Scientists call this tropism, growth directed by cues. When a root bends toward moisture, it is practicing what biologists call hydrotropism. When it stretches toward the pull of gravity, it is gravitropism. When it seeks out darkness and avoids light, it is phototropism in reverse. These terms sound technical, but you can feel them as living metaphors. The root is drawn, like you are drawn toward warmth, toward kindness, toward the places that nourish you. But roots do more than search. They also signal. Within their cells, electric impulses flicker, much like the signals in your own nervous system. When a root is injured, this small electrical current can shift, alerting the tree. Calcium waves ripple across cells, a quiet alarm echoing deep below. In this way, roots not only gather but also protect, warning the rest of the tree when danger lurks in the unseen. Picture a forest floor after rain. The ground is soft and you imagine what lies beneath, thousands upon thousands of intertwined roots, brushing, crossing, weaving together like threads in an invisible fabric. Each tree, though standing tall in solitude, is below bound into a living web of touch. It is in this quiet network that trees first learn the language of connection. Roots listen not only to the earth, but also to each other. When roots of the same species meet underground, they sometimes slow their growth, as though recognizing kin. They pause, they redirect, they make space, a kind of silent acknowledgement. When roots of strangers collide, the response may be different. Sometimes competitive, sometimes cautious, sometimes cooperative. In this way, the forest is not just a place of towering trunks, but of negotiations hidden beneath the soil. Think of how you move through your own world. When you encounter someone familiar, you soften. When you meet a stranger, you weigh your steps more carefully. Trees too navigate this dance, shaping their underground behavior according to who they encounter. Roots may even release chemicals into the soil, tiny molecular signals that influence the growth of neighbors. These secret messages drift invisibly, altering the community around them. And just as your body remembers the texture of touch, trees seem to remember the texture of soil. Roots avoid growing where the earth feels too compacted, too suffocating. They expand where oxygen lingers, where space allows breath. In this preference you can see something of their wisdom, a quiet ability to choose places that sustain them, to avoid places that harm them. When you imagine roots, think of them not as simple anchors, but as ears pressed to the ground, as tongues tasting minerals, as hands reaching outward in the dark. They are sensory organs, extensions of awareness. Without eyes they see, without ears they hear. Without speech they still speak. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself as a seed, just sprouting. You send down a first root, a tiny thread that anchors you. That root feels the tug of gravity and follows it. You push downward until you find water. You branch outward, sensing, tasting, touching. You are not alone. The soil is already alive with countless others, and your roots begin their silent listening, joining an unseen chorus beneath the ground. It is here, in the underground silence, that trees begin to form relationships. And it is here, too, that the forest becomes more than a collection of individuals. The soil becomes a shared stage, a place where every root has its role, every gesture carries meaning. Roots are patient. They grow slowly, often just a few centimeters in a week. Yet their patience is not weakness, it is endurance. Over years they carve paths into stone, split rock-shaped landscapes. Their listening is not hurried, it is deep, attentive, enduring. And in their stillness they embody a kind of wisdom that is easy to overlook in a world that rushes. You too have roots, not of wood, but of memory, of experience, of belonging. The way you listen to the world, the way you draw nourishment from people and places, is not so different from the way a tree listens through its roots. Like the tree, you carry invisible connections that keep you standing. The next time you walk through a forest, imagine the ground beneath you alive with threads, with listening hands reaching through soil. You step across a vast underground conversation, one that has been unfolding for centuries. You cannot hear it with your ears, but your body, your imagination, can sense it. It is a reminder that silence is never empty. It is full of hidden voices, soft as the soil that holds them. And yet, the roots are only the beginning. What they sense, what they gather, becomes part of something larger, something that reaches beyond the individual tree. For roots do not listen only for themselves, they listen as part of a network, part of a greater exchange. The soil beneath your feet is not a private world, it is a communal one. Roots touch, share, signal, and sustain one another. Through them the forest begins to speak. And as you linger in this thought, breathing with the trees, you may feel a question rising like a quiet wind. If roots listen, then what happens when they begin to speak? The underground network threads of fungi weave unseen pathways. Like veins of the forest, they carry messages, food, and warnings. Scientists call it the wood wide web, but it feels like breath, like song. Through this web, trees are not alone. They are community. You are still standing in the forest and you can sense the quiet roots pressing deep into the earth. But if you linger here, listening more closely, you begin to notice something stranger. Roots alone do not explain the forest's unity. There is something more subtle, more invisible, stitching every tree to its neighbor. The forest is not only a collection of roots, it is a vast underground network, alive with threads finer than silk, older than language. These threads belong to fungi, not the mushrooms you notice pushing through the leaf litter on a damp morning, though they are part of it too. The true body of fungi lies underground, made of filaments called hyphae. Imagine lines of delicate threads stretching outward, so thin that you could place hundreds side by side across the width of a coin. These hyphae weave into great mats, tangling and crossing, creating a network scientists call mycelium. If you could peel back the forest floor, you would see these threads wrapping around roots, fusing into their tissues, linking tree to tree in an invisible web. The partnership is intimate. The fungus enters into the root, almost becoming part of it, forming what biologists call mycorrhiza, a word that simply means fungus root. In this bond, neither organism is complete alone. Together they form a union as ancient as the forest itself. The bargain is simple, yet profound. Trees, through their leaves, harvest sunlight and turn it into sugars. But roots cannot easily reach certain minerals and nutrients in the soil: phosphorus, nitrogen, trace elements scattered far from their grasp. Fungi, however, are masters of foraging. Their thin hyphae slip into crevices roots cannot reach, dissolving minerals, drawing nourishment from soil and stone. The fungus trades these minerals to the tree, and in return the tree offers sugars crafted in the light above. It is a partnership of exchange, of generosity. Neither thrives alone, both prosper together. If you think of your own life, you may recognize the same truth, that often what you cannot do alone, you achieve through connection. But the story goes deeper. For the fungal network does not simply trade with one tree, it connects many. A single mycelial web can link dozens, even hundreds of trees. Through it flows not just nutrients but information. Scientists have watched this happen in experiments. One tree shaded, unable to make enough sugar, receives food from its neighbors through the fungal threads. Another tree attacked by insects releases warning signals into the network, prompting nearby trees to ready their defenses. What seems like silence above the soil is, in fact, an endless conversation beneath it. Some scientists call this the wood wide web. The phrase is playful, but it carries weight. Just as the internet allows humans to share knowledge across distance, the fungal web allows trees to share resources and warnings across the forest. A mother tree, old and towering, may channel food to her seedlings even when they are shaded and weak. A grove of beeches may balance their sugars so that none starve, each one supported by its neighbors. Close your eyes and imagine it. Every root not an end in itself, but a node in a larger system. Each filament of fungus a line of communication, glowing faintly in the dark like threads of light. Together they form a vast tapestry under your feet, alive, aware, humming with exchange. You may wonder, do trees choose what they give? Do they decide which neighbors receive their sugars, which companions they favor? Some studies suggest they do. Trees seem more generous with kin, with their own species, with their own seedlings. They may send less to strangers or even restrict their flow when resources are scarce. Yet even this behavior has balance. For a forest of selfish trees would not endure, just as a community of selfish people cannot last. Think of it as a balance between self and whole. Each tree must survive, but each tree is also part of a greater body, the forest itself. The fungal network is the bloodstream of that larger being. When one tree thrives, it can share. When one suffers, it may still be held. The survival of the forest rests on this hidden generosity, repeated countless times in the quiet soil. There is wonder in realizing that communication does not always need words or voices or even sound. Trees and fungi speak in molecules, in the subtle flow of sugars and minerals, in the whisper of chemical signals passed from root to thread to root again. Theirs is a conversation of patience unfolding over hours, days, seasons. Yet for its slowness, it is no less rich. Imagine for a moment that you could shrink yourself, small enough to walk within the soil. Around you rise pillars of root, coated with fine white threads of mycelium. They glow faintly, pulsing with energy. You place your hand on one, and you feel the sugars flowing past, minerals being carried, signals passing like whispers in a crowded room. You are inside the forest's nervous system, moving through a hidden world that sustains all the life above. It is humbling to think that the trees you see as solitary are in truth connected. Their stillness hides their bonds, their silence hides their conversation. The forest is not a gathering of individuals, but a single great organism linked by fungal threads. This is why clear-cutting a forest wounds so deeply. When the trees fall, the network below frays, the fungal web breaks, the channels of exchange collapse. It is as though a body lost its circulation. What was once alive with connection becomes fragmented, quiet, broken. And yet the network has resilience. Where a tree dies, the fungi live on. Where seedlings sprout, the threads stretch to meet them. The underground web knits itself back together, patient, persistent, waiting for the forest to return. You too are part of networks, visible and invisible. Your breath depends on the tree's breath. The oxygen you draw was exhaled by leaves above. The food you eat was made possible by roots and soil and unseen fungi working together. You are not outside the forest's network. You are inside it, woven in by every inhalation. Pause and imagine the next breath you take. It carries with it the work of roots, fungi, and leaves, an ancient exchange passed quietly into your lungs. You belong to the same web. You are part of the same cycle of giving and receiving. As you let that thought settle, feel how the idea of separation begins to soften. Trees are not separate from fungi. You are not separate from trees, and none of us are separate from the cycles of earth that sustain us. The underground network is not simply science. It is metaphor, it is lesson, it is reminder. The forest speaks, not in words but in relationships, and if you listen, if you attune yourself to this hidden language, you may sense that what lies beneath your feet is also mirrored within your own body. Just as neurons in your brain fire in connection, just as blood vessels in your body carry life from cell to cell, so too does the mycelium weave life from tree to tree. The Wood Wide Web is not only a scientific curiosity. It is a mirror of interconnectedness, an invitation to remember that survival and flourishing are always shared. And in the end, the image stays with you. Delicate threads in the soil, carrying whispers between trees, a network alive, unseen, binding the forest into one great breathing being. Trees that feed each other. In the shadows, elders share life with the young. Sugars, minerals, and strength flow through hidden veins. One tree's gift becomes another's survival. The forest thrives because its members give more than they take. You are walking deeper into the forest now, and though everything appears still, the truth is far richer. Beneath the quiet soil, the fungal threads you've just imagined do more than carry whispers. They carry sustenance. Through those hidden pathways, trees share the very fuel of life, sugars made in the light, minerals gathered from stone. The forest is not a place of constant competition, as we often imagine, but a place of exchange, of generosity. Consider the young seedling. A small, fragile sprout pushes through the leaf litter, its tender leaves stretching upward. But here beneath the canopy, sunlight is scarce. The great trunks rise above it, their crowns capturing nearly every beam. For the seedling, the world is dim. With too little light, it cannot make enough food on its own. Left isolated, it might wither, starve, or fail before it has the chance to grow tall. Yet many do survive. How? Through the kindness of their elders. Experiments with radioactively labeled carbon have shown something remarkable. Sugars made in the leaves of tall, mature trees can flow through the underground fungal web, traveling into the roots of shaded seedlings. The elders feed the young. It is as if the mother tree bends down to her children in the dark and places food gently into their hands. Scientists have watched this happen with Douglas firs and paper birches, with beeches and maples. Even when species differ, the exchange continues. A tree rich in sugars sends its surplus out into the web. A tree in need receives. The balance is never perfect, but the generosity is real. In the language of ecology, it is called carbon transfer. In the language of the forest, it is simply sharing, and sharing here is survival. A shaded sapling, unable to photosynthesize enough for itself, may still endure because the network delivers what it cannot gather. A sick tree struggling with disease may be supported for a time by its neighbors. A mother tree, rooted deeply and drawing strength from centuries of growth, may channel food into her seedlings' fragile bodies, allowing them to take root in the world. You may pause to wonder, why would one tree give away its food? Why would survival not rest only on the strong, the tallest, the fittest? In part, the answer is kinship. By supporting her offspring, the mother tree ensures her genetic line continues. But it is not only kinship. Trees of different species, connected by fungi, sometimes feed one another too. When birch leaves are in full summer light, they send carbon into the network, and firs in the shade receive it. Later in the year, when birch leaves fall and the firs stand green in the cool season, the flow reverses. The gift moves back. In this mutual sharing, you see the forest not as battlefield, but as community. Strength circulates, not hoarded but passed along. The trees live not in isolation, but in interdependence. Think of your own life. How often have you survived because someone offered you strength when you had none left? How often have you, in turn, passed your own surplus to another? The forest reminds you that survival is not only the work of individuals, it is the work of generosity, repeated endlessly, silently, without expectation of return. There are stories, too, of dying trees sending their last resources outward. A trunk, fading and hollowing, pours what remains of its sugars into the network, channeling nourishment into the roots of neighbors. In this way, even in death, the tree participates in the life of the forest. It does not vanish in isolation. It gives as it departs. The gift of food becomes the gift of continuity. Pause here. Imagine yourself beneath a vast mother tree, her crown high above, her roots wrapped in mycelial threads below. She is feeding her seedlings unseen, sharing sugars crafted in the light of the sun. Around you, thousands of such acts are occurring every moment. An old birch sends energy into the soil. A young fir receives it. Later, the flow reverses. No leaf is wasted, no life entirely solitary. The forest thrives not because each tree stands alone, but because each tree is willing to give. And yet, the forest does not give blindly. The flow is not without direction. Studies suggest that trees favor their own kin, channeling more resources toward their seedlings than toward strangers. In this you see a balance of selfishness and generosity, a natural order where trees ensure their line endures, but still share enough with others to sustain the community. It is not perfect altruism, nor ruthless competition. It is something in between, cooperation shaped by survival. This balance is the essence of the forest. The generosity of one tree allows another to live. The living tree, in turn, may later return the favor. Across seasons and years, the balance shifts, but the web remembers. The network holds the memory of shared strength, and the forest carries on. You can feel the lesson settling into your own body. That strength is never only for yourself. What you create, what you gather, what you hold, can become nourishment for others. The forest thrives because its members give more than they take. So too can your life. And in this generosity lies resilience. When storms come, when droughts arrive, when disease spreads, the network can soften the blow. No tree stands entirely alone, and because of this the forest can endure trials that would shatter a single life. Interdependence is its survival strategy. Imagine again the small seedling in deep shade. Alone, it would perish. Connected, it has a chance. That chance is a gift, given freely by an elder it will never meet directly. You breathe in and realize that life itself is often such a gift, invisible, unexpected, passed to you by those who came before. The forest whispers a reminder, your survival is not only your own doing, it is the quiet work of countless others, people, places, and even trees, feeding you in ways you may never see. Scented warnings, leaves speak in fragrance drifting on gentle breezes. When danger comes, trees release invisible cries. Nearby kin hear and prepare, arming themselves quietly. The air is not empty, it carries the breath of communication. You breathe in deeply, standing among trees, and the forest air feels cool and alive. It smells faintly of damp leaves, soil, and resin. Yet hidden in this simple breath are countless invisible messages. For trees, air is more than atmosphere. It is a carrier of signals, a medium for warnings. When danger comes, trees speak through scents. What seems like silence to you is, to them, a constant whispering language drifting on the breeze. Imagine a caterpillar landing on a leaf, its jaws gnawing tiny holes into the green tissue. The wound is small, but the tree feels it. Within moments, the chemistry of the leaf shifts. Molecules are released, volatile organic compounds or VOCs, light enough to evaporate into the air, quick enough to spread beyond the single tree. You do not see them, but they move in currents carried by wind. They are the tree's scented warning. I am under attack. These molecules are not random. Some, like methyl jasmonate, travel into the air and can be detected by neighboring plants. When those neighbors sense it, they respond. Their own leaves begin producing defensive chemicals, tannins that make them bitter, phenolics that toughen their tissues, resins that clog an insect's mouth parts. By the time the caterpillars move on, the surrounding trees are already armed, ready for the assault. One tree's suffering becomes the community's preparation. Think of it as a form of immune system, but spread across the forest, not confined to a single body. Where your body's cells send chemical signals to defend against infection, the forest's trees send molecules through the air, binding the community into a shared defense. The acacia of Africa offers a striking example. When giraffes begin to feed on its leaves, the tree releases ethylene gas, a sharp chemical signal. The wind carries it down the line and acacias farther away sense it, responding by flooding their leaves with tannins. The leaves grow bitter, unpalatable, discouraging the giraffe from continuing. In this way, one tree's injury protects many others. Scientists first began to realize this in the 1980s, studying willows and poplars. Damaged by insects, the trees released airborne chemicals that nearby plants could detect, triggering them to increase their defensive enzymes. The forest was not passive, but alert, responsive. The air was not empty, but alive with information. Pause and consider what this means. When you inhale near trees, you may be drawing into your lungs molecules that once carried warning, urgency, survival. The scent of pine after rain, the sharp fragrance of crushed leaves, the subtle resin of bark. All of these are not only smells, but messages. What you experience as perfume, the forest experiences as language. But these warnings are not meant only for plants. Sometimes the scents call for reinforcements from the wider web of life. A corn plant attacked by caterpillars releases VOCs that attract parasitic wasps. The wasps arrive, laying eggs inside the caterpillars, ending their feast. A tree does not move to defend itself, but it can summon allies through the air, bending other creatures to its side. This is not strategy in the human sense, not thought-out battle plans. It is chemistry shaped by millions of years of evolution, refined until it serves the community well. Yet to imagine it poetically, you could think of the forest as a place where trees cry out, and the air itself becomes messenger, carrying those cries to both neighbors and allies. You might also wonder, do trees deceive? Could they send signals that mislead? Research suggests that sometimes signals benefit the sender, but may not always help the receiver. The forest's communication is not always pure cooperation. It is, like human language, a blend of truth, strategy, and survival. But still, the outcome is connection, a web of signals carried invisibly around you each time the wind shifts. Picture yourself again as very small, standing among leaves. A breeze passes, and with it a wave of molecules. You do not hear words, but you feel the presence of meaning. Each molecule is a syllable, each mix of compounds a sentence, telling neighbors, danger is here, prepare yourselves. The forest breathes, and in its breath it speaks. This way of communication is fleeting. Molecules dissipate quickly, diluted into the air. A warning may last only minutes, sometimes less. Yet this ephemerality is part of its strength. Like a shout across a crowd, it does not need to endure forever. It only needs to reach those nearby, to spread urgency before the moment passes. There is a lesson here for you too. Not every message must be permanent to matter. Some truths are carried only for a moment, and yet they protect, sustain, transform. The air of the forest teaches you that even the briefest breath can hold meaning. Think of seasons of your own life when warnings came. a friend's concern, a subtle discomfort, a fleeting sense of danger. Like scented molecules, those signals did not last long, but if you heeded them, they shaped your choices, they readied you. In the same way, the trees prepare one another, moment by moment, molecule by molecule. And it is not only danger that trees send. Some VOCs drift as invitations, flowers use scent to call pollinators, fruits release fragrance to signal ripeness. In each case, chemistry becomes communication. The forest speaks in fragrance, and every breath is a page of its invisible book. Close your eyes and inhale again. The air is full of histories, of struggles, of warnings carried across centuries of evolution. Though you cannot name them, your body feels their presence. There is a subtle alertness in the air, as if the forest itself is awake and aware, breathing not only for itself, but for its neighbors. You realize in this moment that communication in the forest does not stop at soil or root. It rises into the air, into the unseen realm that you too inhabit with every breath. You are not outside this conversation. You are part of it. The same molecules that warn a tree can enter your lungs, touch your cells, remind you of the deep entanglement between your life and theirs. And so you stand in the forest, feeling the breeze, knowing that it is not empty. It is alive with messages. It carries the pain of leaves bitten, the call for defense, the invitation for help. To breathe in is to participate, even silently, in the language of trees. The warning fragrances are gentle, invisible, fleeting. Yet they embody memory too, for each signal leaves an imprint. Trees that sense danger once may respond more quickly the next time. The forest learns through scent, storing experience in its tissues. Each breath of molecules is not only a warning, but also a record, a mark of time lived. And here, softly, the forest's language of air begins to lead you toward another truth, that trees remember more than danger. They carry within their bodies the rhythms of years, the memory of light and frost, the passage of time itself. Their scents drift for moments, but their rings hold centuries. The memory of seasons. A tree remembers the length of light, the taste of frost, the rhythm of rain. Its cells hold calendars more ancient than any clock. Each ring, each bud, each falling leaf, a record of time lived slowly. In patience, the forest teaches us how to wait. The forest is never hurried, yet it keeps time with remarkable precision. As you stand among the trees, you may think of them as timeless, existing outside the pace of days. But look closer, and you see that every tree is a calendar, a memory keeper, a living chronicle of seasons. A tree does not wear a watch, but it knows the hour of the year. Its leaves unfold in spring, linger through summer, and fall at autumn's call. Its sap rises when warmth returns, and slows to stillness in the deep of winter. Each cycle repeats, not randomly, but with exquisite attention to rhythm. How does a tree remember? Inside its tissues, cells sense changes in daylight. The length of day, what scientists call photoperiod, is one of its most faithful clocks. As sunlight stretches longer in spring, buds awaken, swelling with new life. As light shortens in autumn, signals move through leaves, telling them to release, to drift gently to the ground. This sensitivity to light is so precise that a tree can time its growth to the shifting of the seasons, year after year, for centuries. It is not only light that guides memory, but temperature too. Trees track the chill of winter, a requirement many species hold before they can bloom again. This chilling requirement ensures that buds do not open too early before frost has passed. It is as though the tree waits, remembering the cold, holding patience until it is safe to begin anew. Pause here and imagine yourself as a bud in winter, tightly closed, wrapped in scales of protection. The air is frigid, snow rests on the ground, yet deep inside your cells are counting hours of cold, tallying each frost as if keeping score. Only when enough hours have passed do you feel the shift, the readiness to open when warmth returns. This is memory not of thought, but of body, a rhythm inscribed into every cell. Each year the seasons leave marks on a tree's wood. If you cut across a trunk, you see rings, concentric circles recording growth. Wide rings tell of years with abundant rain, narrow rings whisper of drought. Frost cracks, fire scars, even insect attacks may leave their traces etched in wood. The tree becomes a historian, its body a library of weather, climate, and change. Dendrochronologists, scientists who study tree rings, can read centuries of history this way. They can tell when volcanoes erupted, shading skies and cooling summers. They can trace the rise and fall of rivers, the ebb of droughts, the surge of floods. All of this is written silently inside trunks that never moved, but patiently endured. But memory is not only written in wood, it is also written in behavior. A tree that has endured drought will sometimes alter how it grows in future years, adjusting its water use, changing how it opens its stomata, the pores on its leaves. A tree that survived frost may harden its buds more strongly the next winter. In this way, trees carry experience into the future, a quiet form of resilience. This memory does not belong only to individuals. Through seeds, some of this resilience passes on. The offspring of trees adapted to cold may themselves be better at withstanding chill. The forest as a whole remembers, not in thought or language, but in genes, in chemistry, in the very structure of its body. Think of how your own body remembers. Your muscles recall movements practiced long ago. Your skin remembers sunlight, tanning, or freckling in response. Your mind carries memory in stories, but your body holds its own memory in sensation. Trees, too, remember in their bodies. And their patience in holding this memory teaches you something about time. That growth is not rushed, that wisdom comes in cycles, that endurance requires waiting. You can feel this lesson settling over you as softly as falling leaves. Each season has its purpose. Winter is not death, but rest. Spring is not urgency, but unfolding. Summer is not forever, but abundance. Autumn is not loss, but preparation. The tree embodies this truth without hurry, without doubt. Perhaps this is why walking among trees feels calming. They remind you of time's larger rhythm. Your days may feel crowded, urgent, fleeting, but the tree breathes slowly, teaching you how to stretch into patience. It remembers centuries, while you remember hours. And in its memory, you find peace. Close your eyes now. Feel yourself as part of this rhythm. A breath like spring opening, an exhale like autumn's fall, a pause like winter's rest, a heartbeat like summer's fullness. You are not separate from the memory of seasons. You are woven into it. The intelligence of the canopy. High above, leaves make decisions in light and shadow. They turn, tilt, and balance, always adapting to the sky's changes. Each choice is small, yet together they shape the life of the tree. From sunlit crowns, wisdom drifts downward. Lift your gaze upward. The canopy spreads like a living ceiling, layer upon layer of green. It shimmers in the wind, bends in the light, breathes in rhythm with the air. To most eyes, it is a simple crown of leaves. But if you linger, if you look gently, you realize this is where the intelligence of the tree resides. Leaves are not passive solar panels, fixed and mindless. They are responsive, dynamic, endlessly adaptive. Each leaf turns itself toward light, angles itself against heat, closes its pores to conserve water, opens them to breathe. Each leaf makes choices, and together millions of such choices keep the tree alive. Consider a single leaf, thin and delicate, yet miraculous in its design. On its surface lie pores called stomata, each one a tiny mouth that opens and closes. Through these mouths, carbon dioxide enters, water vapor escapes, oxygen drifts out. The tree breathes through them. But stomata are not random in their behavior. They respond to light, humidity, and even internal chemical signals. When water is scarce, the tree releases a hormone called abscisic acid, telling stomata to close. In this way, the leaf balances thirst and hunger, conserving moisture even as it longs to drink in more carbon from the air. Pause here and imagine yourself as that leaf, the sun presses against you. You thirst for carbon dioxide, eager to make sugars through photosynthesis. But if you open too wide, water streams out, evaporating into the sky. So you weigh the trade moment by moment, pore by pore. You are thinking, but not in words. You are solving problems in the chemistry of life. This is intelligence without a brain. What scientists call distributed decision-making. No single leaf controls the whole canopy. Instead, each leaf responds to its conditions, and from the sum of their choices, the tree as a whole survives. It is a kind of wisdom woven from countless small acts of adaptation. And light itself is never constant. It flickers with clouds, shifts with branches, dapples through movement, yet leaves adjust instantly. Some angle themselves directly toward the sun, a behavior called heliotropism. Others flatten at midday to reduce heat, then tilt again in the evening to catch softer rays. Still others, in plants of desert or understory, arrange themselves in spirals so that each leaf shades the next, maximizing efficiency. Every angle, every tilt is a decision, a gesture of quiet intelligence. Think of the canopy as a city, millions of green citizens, each adjusting to conditions, each negotiating space. Some overlap, some withdraw, some stretch outward. Competition and cooperation exist together, but always the goal is balance. The canopy is not chaos, it is choreography. Inside each leaf, photosynthesis hums. Chloroplasts capture sunlight, turning it into sugars that feed the tree. But even here, intelligence appears. When light is too strong, chloroplasts shift position, hiding near the edges of cells to avoid damage. When light is dim, they spread wide, maximizing surface area to catch what little comes. Like dancers, they move in response to cues, never still, always aware. And when damage occurs, when a leaf is chewed or torn, signals ripple outward. Electrical impulses travel along veins, hormones surge through tissues, nearby leaves prepare themselves, fortifying their defenses. In this way, the canopy communicates internally, each part alerting the whole. The intelligence of the canopy extends beyond the tree itself. When one tree senses drought, the hormones and signals moving through its leaves may also be shared with neighbors through the underground network. Thus, the awareness of the canopy does not stay confined above. It trickles down through root and fungus, spreading through the entire forest. A thought in the leaves becomes a thought of the whole community. Pause and notice how this resembles your own life. Your brain does not hold every decision. Your body is full of quiet intelligences, the heart adjusting its rhythm, the gut balancing enzymes, the skin sensing temperature and responding. Like the canopy, you are a system of distributed awareness, countless small decisions weaving together the story of survival. And what of memory in the canopy? Leaves remember too. A leaf exposed once to heat stress may respond more quickly when it comes again. A leaf grazed by insects may prime itself for future attack. This is not memory as you hold in words or images, but memory as readiness, a preparedness written into the cells themselves. Consider how peaceful it feels to stand under a canopy. The dappled light, the soft rustle, the balance of shadow and shine, all of it is the result of countless small acts of adjustment. The canopy is alive, aware, constantly negotiating with the sky. Its wisdom lies not in dominance but in balance. It does not seek to control the sun, but to dance with it. In this you may find a lesson for yourself. You cannot control the vast forces of your own life, the seasons, the storms, the unpredictability of events. But like the canopy, you can tilt, adjust, adapt, balance. Intelligence is not always solving the entire puzzle. Sometimes it is only making the next small adjustment, the next quiet turn toward light. At night, the canopy rests, leaves fold slightly, stomata close, activity slows. But even in rest, awareness lingers. As dawn approaches, light-sensitive pigments detect the faintest glow of morning, signaling leaves to prepare. The canopy anticipates, remembers, awakens with the sun. It is a daily rhythm, an ancient intelligence repeating endlessly above you. Picture now the canopy as an ocean of green waves, rising and falling in response to light and wind. Each leaf is a boat, steering itself gently, making countless small decisions that keep the whole afloat. This ocean breathes with you, giving you oxygen, taking your carbon, weaving you into its intelligence with every breath you take. The forest, then, is not only roots and soil, not only warnings and memory, but a thinking crown above your head. Not thought in the way of humans, but thought nonetheless, a distributed wisdom held in green hands lifted to the sky, and as you look up you realize the intelligence of the canopy does not end here. For when leaves fall, when branches break, when trees die, that intelligence does not vanish. It flows downward into soil, into fungi, into new life rising. From the crown above to the ground below, the cycle continues. Death that nourishes. When a tree falls, it does not vanish. It becomes food, shelter, and soil for the next generation. In rot, there is renewal, life folding back into itself. Every ending in the forest is another beginning. The forest teaches you a truth that can feel difficult at first. Nothing here is wasted. Every falling leaf, every broken branch, every toppled trunk becomes part of something else. In the stillness of death, life stirs again. This is the quiet generosity of the forest. Endings are not final, they are transformations. Picture a great tree standing for centuries, its canopy once catching sunlight, its roots once listening in the dark. One day, after storm or age or lightning's sudden strike, it falls. The crash is loud, the silence afterward even louder. You might think this is an ending, and in one way it is, but to the forest it is only the beginning of another story. On the ground, the fallen trunk begins to change. Fungi arrive first, their spores settling on bark, sending out thin threads that weave through wood. These threads dissolve the rigid walls of cellulose and lignin, breaking them down into simpler forms. Bacteria follow, joining in the slow feast. Together they begin the long work of decay. The tree, once solid, softens, its wood darkens, its bark peels, its body returns to earth. This is not destruction but transformation. The nutrients locked away in wood are released again into the soil. Nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon, the building blocks of life, seep back into the ground where roots can reach them. The fallen tree becomes food for seedlings that will one day stand tall themselves. Even in death, the tree continues to feed the forest. It is not a disappearance but a gift. And while decomposition unfolds, the fallen trunk itself becomes a world. Moss spreads across its bark, soft and green. Ferns root in its softened wood. Insects burrow into its cracks, laying eggs in the hidden spaces. Birds come to forage, woodpeckers tapping for beetles inside. Small mammals nest in its hollows. What was once a single tree becomes a city of life. Ecologists call these fallen trunks nurse logs. They nurture new seedlings, holding moisture, providing nutrients, offering shelter from wind. A young tree sprouting from the decayed body of an elder grows stronger than it might in bare soil. The old literally raises the new. Pause here and imagine standing beside such a log. You touch its surface, spongy and damp with moss. Tiny sprouts of cedar or fir push upward from it, green and fragile. In the dark wood, beetles scurry. In the soft rot, fungi glow faintly, some releasing bioluminescence like stars of the underworld. You realize that death here is not absence, it is abundance. Even roots that remain underground continue their service. As a tree dies, it sometimes channels its last reserves of sugar outward, sending them into neighbors through the underground network. In its final moments, it still gives, leaving behind nourishment for those who live on. This rhythm may comfort you, for it whispers a truth beyond the forest. Your own life, too, will one day return to earth. But like the tree, you will not vanish. Your body will feed soil, your breath will return to air, your energy will disperse into countless forms. Endings, frightening as they seem, are part of a larger generosity of life. Think of autumn leaves falling. Each leaf once caught sunlight, turned it into sugar, fed the tree. Now, when it drops, it begins another role, enriching soil, covering roots, feeding microbes. The leaf's purpose was not finished at its fall. It shifted gently into another form of service. The forest does not resist this truth. It embraces it. Every death, every decay is welcomed back into the cycle. What seems like loss is, in fact, renewal. And there is beauty in this process. A rotting log, glistening with fungi after rain, may shine with colors more vivid than the living tree ever displayed. Orange caps, white shelves, blue molds, emerald moss. The palette of decay is rich and alive. Death is not gray and empty. It is full of color, full of texture, full of life unfolding differently. Take another breath. Feel the patience of this cycle. Decomposition is not quick. It can take decades, even centuries, for a large trunk to fully return to soil. The forest does not rush. It allows time for each stage: fungus, moss, insect, root. Every moment of decay is also a moment of creation. And so you realize that in the forest, nothing is ever wasted. The gift of life continues even through endings. A fallen tree feeds fungi. Fungi feed soil. Soil feeds roots. Roots feed leaves. Leaves feed breath. And breath feeds you. You are already part of this endless cycle, woven into it with every inhale. When you think of death this way, it softens. It becomes not an abrupt void, but a doorway, a folding back into the embrace of the earth. It becomes continuity, not disappearance. And in that thought, there is comfort. Perhaps this is why being among trees feels healing. They remind you that even in endings there is generosity. Even in falling there is giving. Even in silence there is renewal. You may feel your own body exhale more easily now, your breath joining the cycle, your heart finding rest in the rhythm of the forest. Life, death, renewal. Each flows into the other like water returning to the sea. Forests and their climate forests breathe, exhaling clouds and rain. They cool the earth, bind carbon, and soften storms. A single tree is weather, but a forest is climate. In their quiet labor, forests steady the fragile balance of the world. Stand in the heart of a forest and breathe deeply. The air feels cooler, softer, more alive. You may not notice it, but every breath you take is shaped by the presence of trees. They do more than shade you, more than shelter birds and animals. Together, as a vast living system, forests shape weather, carve patterns in rainfall, hold back storms, and stabilize the fragile balance of the planet's climate. A single tree can influence its surroundings. Its leaves release water vapor, cooling the air. Its shade lowers ground temperature. Its roots draw water upward and stabilize soil. But when trees gather in great numbers, their influence multiplies. A forest is not only a collection of trees, it is a climate maker. This begins with the most basic rhythm of their lives: photosynthesis. In sunlight, leaves draw in carbon dioxide and water, then craft sugars for growth. Oxygen is released in the process, the breath you rely upon. But in this exchange, something else happens. Carbon is locked away inside trunks, branches, roots, and soil. Forests are great carbon vaults, storing the excess from the atmosphere, preventing it from trapping too much heat. Without them, the planet would warm even faster, storms would grow harsher, seasons more unstable. Pause and imagine every trunk as a column of stored sunlight. The carbon inside was once part of the air. Now it is held, steady, waiting. This quiet storage is one of the most important acts of balance on Earth. And yet forests never announce this gift. They do it silently, endlessly, with patience. But forests do not only hold carbon, they also move water. Through roots, trees draw moisture from the ground, lifting it upward into their leaves. From there, much of it is released back into the air as vapor through tiny pores on the leaves' surface. This process, called transpiration, is like exhalation. A forest exhales so much water that it can create clouds, sometimes even summoning its own rain. In the Amazon, for example, the rainforest releases vast amounts of moisture into the sky. This vapor rises, cools, and condenses into clouds, which drift and fall again as rain. The forest waters itself, recycling its own lifeblood, sustaining not only its trees but the rivers, animals, and people who depend on its flow. Without trees, rainfall dwindles, rivers shrink, and landscapes dry. Think of the forest as a great fountain, sending water upward only to let it fall again, sustaining a cycle as ancient as life itself. This is why deforestation leads to drought. Without trees, the fountain breaks, the air grows drier, clouds disperse, and the rains retreat. Forests also act as the lungs of the earth in another way, by regulating temperature. Walk from a barren field into a shaded grove, and you feel the difference immediately. The canopy blocks harsh sunlight, the transpiration cools the air, and the ground beneath remains damp and soft. Scale this effect upward, and entire regions feel cooler, more stable because of forests. Their presence softens extremes. Where there are forests, heat waves are gentler, storms less violent, winds more subdued. This power to regulate is not only local but global. Tropical forests, boreal forests, temperate forests, each contributes to the balance of the Earth's climate system. Tropical forests move heat and water around the planet. Boreal forests, stretching across the north, reflect sunlight and store vast amounts of carbon in their soils. Together they weave a delicate stability, one you experience each time seasons arrive when expected, each time the air feels steady, each time the rain falls when it is needed. Pause now and imagine Earth seen from space. Vast green swaths spread across continents, shaping the very patterns of clouds above them. The Amazon, the Congo, the Siberian taiga, all of them visible not only as forests but as forces. From above you can almost see them breathing, carbon drawn in, oxygen released, water vapor rising, clouds forming, rain falling. These are not only landscapes, they are climate engines. And yet, like all engines, they are vulnerable. When forests are cut, burned, or fragmented, their power weakens. Carbon stored for centuries rushes back into the atmosphere. The fountains of rain slow, rivers dry. The balance tips and climates shift. The air warms, storms intensify, droughts deepen. The removal of trees is not just a local wound, it is a global fever. But forests also show resilience. Where they are allowed to regrow, balance can return. Trees planted anew begin to draw down carbon, release water, rebuild soil. Though it takes decades or centuries to restore a great forest, the process begins the moment a seed germinates. Even in loss, the possibility of renewal remains. In this, the forest teaches you a lesson. Balance is fragile, but not beyond repair. What is damaged can heal, slowly, if nurtured. The climate, too, longs for stability. The trees know this, and their every act is one of steadying. Think again of the canopy above you. Each leaf exhales vapor, each root steadies soil, each trunk holds carbon. Alone, the act is small. Together, it is vast. This is the intelligence of the collective. Each tree contributes, but the forest as a whole becomes something greater than the sum of its parts, a stabilizer of the world. There are smaller gifts too. Forests filter the air, catching dust and pollutants on their leaves. They buffer noise, creating quiet havens in a loud world. They slow the rush of rain, allowing water to seep gently into the ground instead of flooding away. In every way they soften life's extremes, offering comfort, balance, protection. And all of this unfolds without hurry, without announcement. Trees do not demand recognition for the oxygen they provide, for the storms they calm, for the carbon they hold. They simply act quietly, continuously, because that is their nature. Pause once more and breathe. Feel the coolness of the air. Know that this coolness is not chance, it is gift. It is the long, slow work of countless leaves above you, shaping the climate not only of this place, but of the entire earth. And perhaps as you reflect on this, you see your own life differently. You may think your small acts do not matter, but each breath, each kindness, each contribution joins a larger whole. Just as one leaf alone cannot cool the air, but many together change the climate, so too your acts weave into a collective strength. The forest teaches you that power lies in accumulation, in patience, in the quiet layering of small gifts until they form stability. And so you understand, a single tree is weather, but a forest is climate. Songs of diversity. No forest is one voice, it is many. Pines beside maples, ferns beneath oaks, moss on stone. Each species contributes its own rhythm and resilience. Together they create harmony strong enough to endure centuries. Walk deeper into the forest and you notice something simple yet profound. No two trees are the same. Here stands a beech, its smooth grey trunk rising steady and tall. Nearby, a pine, rough-barked and resin-scented, lifts needles skyward. Beneath them ferns curl upward in green spirals, while moss spreads across stone, softening its edges. Everywhere you look, life takes a different shape. This is the forest's secret strength, its diversity. The song of the forest is not sung by one voice alone, but by a chorus of many. Every species adds a note, a rhythm, a layer. Together these create harmony, a resilience that no single tree could hold by itself. Consider a pine forest. Pines grow tall and straight, their needles sharp, their cones scattering seeds. Alone they can form vast stands stretching across hills. But when a pest arrives that feeds on pine, the entire forest suffers. With little variation, disease spreads quickly, and what once seemed strong collapses. Now picture a mixed forest, pine beside oak, maple, birch, cedar. When pests arrive, they may take one tree, but not all. The others stand, holding the forest steady while the wounded recover. Diversity acts as a shield, a kind of balance against disaster. Scientists call this the insurance effect of biodiversity. Each species carries its own strengths, weaknesses, and adaptations. Together they ensure the forest against change. One tree thrives in drought, another in flood. One resists insects, another resists frost. Alone they are vulnerable. Together they endure. Pause here and imagine the forest as an orchestra. The oak plays its deep, steady notes. The birch brings brightness, lightness. The pine adds constancy. The moss a subtle undertone. Each instrument plays differently, yet none could create the full symphony alone. The beauty and the resilience lies in the combination. Diversity exists not only in trees, but in every layer of the forest. Shrubs, vines, fungi, lichens, insects, birds, mammals. Each fills a niche, each adds to the whole. The canopy captures sunlight, but the understory transforms the shadows into life. The forest floor recycles death into nourishment, while fungi thread the soil with hidden connection. Every level sings its part. Think of a fallen log. On its surface, moss drinks dew, fungi fruit in vivid colors, beetles tunnel, salamanders shelter. The log is not simply decaying, it is hosting a multitude of lives. Diversity transforms loss into abundance, and diversity too brings beauty. Look at autumn leaves, scarlet maples, golden aspens, russet oaks, bronze beeches. Together they create a tapestry richer than any single hue. The forest's song is not only resilience, it is wonder, a reminder that difference itself can be beautiful. This lesson echoes beyond the forest. In your own life, diversity strengthens you as well. The variety of people around you, the differing voices, the contrasting perspectives, these are not threats to harmony, but the foundation of it. Like the forest, communities thrive when many kinds of people bring their unique gifts. Pause and remember, the forest does not ask all its trees to be the same. It does not demand uniformity. It thrives because of difference. Some trees grow tall, others spread wide. Some bloom early, others late. Some hold green through winter, others release their leaves in fall. Each follows its own rhythm, and yet, together, they create balance. Even disturbance is softened by diversity. When storms strike, some trees fall, but others bend. When fire comes, some perish, but others resprout from roots. When drought lingers, some wither, but others endure. No one species holds the whole burden. Together, they carry it. Ecologists studying forests have found that biodiversity increases productivity. A mixed forest often grows more vigorously than a uniform one. The reasons are many. Varied root depths draw water from different layers of soil, different leaves capture different angles of sunlight, differing lifespans ensure continuity. Like a woven fabric, the threads strengthen one another, preventing tears. And so you learn that resilience is not about perfection, but about variety. The forest survives not by eliminating difference, but by embracing it. Stand now in the quiet and listen. The wind passes through many kinds of leaves, each rustling with a slightly different sound. Together they form a chorus, a layered harmony. It is not a single note, but a song of diversity, a reminder that strength is found in the many. You may carry this with you as a kind of comfort. When life feels fragile, remember the forest. Remember that endurance often comes not from sameness, but from difference. Remember that resilience is built by weaving many voices together. The forest whispers this truth gently, teaching you through its very being. No forest is one tree, no life is one voice. The human bond. You too belong to this network. Your breath mingles with leaves, your body depends on their gifts. Long before science, humans knew the forest as kin. To listen to trees is to remember something ancient inside yourself. When you breathe in, the forest enters you. Oxygen made in the leaves above flows into your lungs, fills your blood, feeds your cells. When you breathe out, you give back carbon dioxide, the very fuel trees require. You and the forest are not separate. Each breath is a bond, a rhythm, a conversation older than memory. It is easy in the pace of human life to forget this truth. You walk on pavement, live among walls, carry screens in your hands. The forest may feel far away, but inside you the bond remains. Your lungs carry the shape of ancient forests. Your blood carries iron, once forged in stars and fed by plants through food. Your body is a continuation of the same cycles that keep a tree alive. Long before science described photosynthesis, long before researchers traced carbon pathways and measured transpiration, humans felt this bond instinctively. Our ancestors lived among forests not as visitors, but as kin. They built shelter from wood, lit fires with branches, made tools from roots and bark. They told stories of trees as ancestors, as guardians, as sacred beings. Across cultures, this bond is remembered. The Norse spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree, whose roots and branches held all realms together. In India, the banyan tree is seen as immortal, a sheltering presence. In many indigenous traditions across the world, trees are elders, teachers, relatives, beings with wisdom to share. Even today, when you step quietly into a grove, you may feel the echo of this reverence, a sense that you are among more than wood and leaf. Science has added detail to this ancient bond. It has shown us the chemistry of air, the structure of cells, the networks beneath the soil. Yet what it reveals does not erase the old knowing. Instead, it deepens it. The stories of ancestors and the discoveries of science meet in the same truth, that your life is interwoven with the life of trees. Think of the ways forests have shaped you. The wooden beams of your home once stood as trunks. The paper you write on was once leaf and bark. The food you eat is grown in soil fed by decayed forests of the past. Even the air you breathe in cities still carries the imprint of forests somewhere, near or far, purifying and balancing it before it reached you. And beyond the material, forests shape your mind. Psychological studies show that time spent among trees lowers blood pressure, reduces stress hormones, and calms the nervous system. The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is not about exercise or hiking, but about simply being present among trees, listening, breathing, absorbing the atmosphere. The forest enters not only your lungs, but your body's rhythms, quieting your mind, softening your thoughts. You may have felt this yourself. The way a walk among trees slows your pace, eases your breath, lifts your mood. It is not imagination, it is bond. Your nervous system responds to the forest because, in a deep sense, it recognizes home. Pause here. Imagine yourself lying beneath a canopy, looking upward. Light filters through leaves in shifting patterns. The air is cooler, scented with resin and soil. Your body relaxes without effort. You belong here. The forest whispers to your cells, you are part of me. This bond is not only about what you receive, but also about what you give. When you exhale carbon, the trees drink it in. When you plant a tree, you extend life not only for yourself but for generations ahead. Even in small ways, conserving wood, protecting soil, breathing mindfully, you are participating in the same cycle. You are not outside it. You are inside, always. Yet in modern times this bond has frayed. Forests are cut, burned, fragmented. Humanity often treats them as resources rather than relatives. And in doing so, we forget something vital. When forests suffer, so do we. The bond cannot be broken, it can only be ignored at our cost. But bonds can be remembered. Every time you step into a forest, you renew it. Every time you breathe with awareness, you honor it. Every time you learn about trees, you weave yourself back into kinship. This is why indigenous wisdom is so vital. For many peoples who live close to the land, the bond with trees has never been forgotten. Forests are still kin, still family, still sacred. Listening to these traditions, respecting their voices, is one way of remembering what science alone cannot teach. That relationship requires care, respect, and reciprocity. Think again of the wood wide web, the underground network of trees and fungi. Imagine yourself as part of that system. Your breath, your choices, your actions ripple outward into the larger whole. Just as trees share sugars with seedlings, just as fungi carry minerals across roots, you too can share, give, and sustain the community around you. The forest is not only a metaphor, it is a guide. And when you look at a tree, perhaps now you see it differently. Not as background, not as scenery, but as a being in relationship with you. Its breath becomes your breath, its patience becomes your lesson, its resilience becomes your reminder. There is something humbling in this realization. The tallest trees may live for centuries, watching generations of humans pass. Yet they never boast, never hurry, never claim dominion. They simply stand, give, receive, and endure. In their humility, they show you what it means to live in balance. Perhaps this is why children often feel wonder with trees, climbing them, talking to them, imagining them as friends. They instinctively sense the bond adults sometimes forget. The forest invites you to return to that childlike knowing, to see trees not as resources but as companions in the great story of life. Close your eyes now, feel your breath. With each inhale you take in the forest. With each exhale you give back to it. This rhythm is older than you, older than humanity, older even than the forests we see today. It is the rhythm of life itself. You belong to the forest, not as visitor, not as stranger, but as kin. To remember this is to remember yourself. The threat of silence. Chainsaws, fire, and heat cut threads of communication. Forests that once whispered now stand in fractured stillness. Without their voices, the world grows harsher, lonelier. But in silence lies the call for us to listen harder. The forest has always been a place of voices. Roots whisper in the soil, leaves murmur in fragrance, canopies sing in shifting light. Everywhere messages pass, life is shared, balance is maintained. But now in many places those voices are dimming. The hum of networks grows faint, the chorus of diversity falls quiet. The forest is threatened not only by storms of nature, but by storms of human hands. Listen for a moment to the sound of chainsaws. Their growl echoes through valleys louder than the soft conversations of roots and leaves. Each cut severs not only wood, but connection. A tree does not fall alone. It takes with it the threads that tied it to neighbors, the fungi that laced its roots, the canopy that sheltered its understory. When enough trees fall, the entire language of the forest unravels. This is deforestation. The silencing of the forest. It happens for timber, for farmland, for roads, for cities. Each cleared patch may seem small, but taken together, they reshape the lungs of the earth. The Amazon shrinks, the Congo thins, the taiga fragments, and with each loss the climate shifts, the rain falters, the diversity diminishes. Fire too brings silence. Some fires are natural, part of cycles that forests know how to endure, but many are larger now, fueled by hotter climates, spread by human spark. They burn not only trees, but the soil itself, scorching fungal webs, sterilizing earth. What returns may be thinner, quieter, a shadow of the vibrant forest before. And beyond chainsaw and flame is the slow burn of heat itself. As the planet warms, seasons shift. Winters grow shorter, spring arrives sooner, summers scorch longer. Trees, bound by rhythms of light and cold, grow confused. Buds open too early, then frost returns. Drought stretches roots beyond their reach. Insects thrive in the warmth, multiplying, spreading into places they once could not survive. Forests strain beneath the weight of a changing climate, and their songs falter. Imagine walking into a forest where the canopy is thinner, where silence feels heavier. The moss is dry, the ferns wilt, the understory lacks its chorus of birds. You feel the absence more than the presence. What was once a symphony has become a whisper. This silence is not empty, it is warning. Scientists measure the losses in numbers, hectares gone, species threatened, carbon released. But you can feel it in your own body too. When forests thin, the air grows hotter, storms grow stronger, the rains retreat. The bond you share with trees weakens, and your own rhythms shift. The silence of the forest becomes a silence in yourself. Yet even in this grief, there is knowledge. The forest shows you the consequences of forgetting connection. When we see trees only as timber, soil only as resource, climate only as backdrop, we unravel the web that holds us. The silence is reminder. What we do to the forest, we do to ourselves. Pause here. Think of the roots that once carried sugars to seedlings. Think of the fungi that wove community beneath the soil. Think of the fragrances that warned neighbors of danger. Each of these voices relies on presence. When trees fall, those voices fall with them. But silence can also awaken. When the voices fade, you may begin to listen more deeply. You may feel the urgency of protection, the need to act. The threat of silence calls you not to despair, but to attention. And the forest is not yet gone. In many places it endures. Patches of rainforest still breathe clouds into the sky. Ancient groves still stand in valleys. Saplings push upward, finding light. Birds still nest, fungi still glow, roots still weave. The silence threatens, but the song is not finished. There are choices humans can make. Forests can be preserved, protected, restored. Reforestation and regeneration can return life to barren ground. The fungal networks, resilient and patient, can reweave themselves. The silence can be answered with song again, if care is given. Think again of your bond with the forest. Each breath ties you to trees. Each meal relies on soil enriched by forests past. Each drop of water may once have been lifted into the sky by leaves. The silence of the forest is not far away. It is near, woven into your own survival. When you breathe in, ask yourself, whose breath do I carry? When you breathe out, ask yourself, who receives this gift? The answers lead you back to the trees. The forest is not out there. It is here, in you. The threat of silence then is not only about forests, it is about forgetting yourself. To lose the forest is to lose part of who you are. And yet hope remains. Forests regenerate, seeds fall, sprouts rise, fungal threads reconnect. Given time and care, the silence can be broken, replaced again with whispers, fragrances, songs of resilience. Your role in this is not small. Planting a tree, protecting a grove, choosing wisely what you consume, these are acts of resistance to silence. They are notes added back into the symphony. They are reminders that you too are part of the web. The forest is asking you to listen, to hear not only its silence but its call, to remember that resilience is still possible. Pause now and imagine standing in a threatened forest. The air is thin, the canopy broken, yet in the soil seeds wait. You kneel and touch the earth, feeling that patient potential. The silence is heavy, but it is not final. There are voices waiting to rise again, And as you rise, you realize that the story does not end with threat. The silence, though painful, leads you toward a deeper reflection. For beyond the losses, beyond the dangers, lies a question the forest still asks. What role will you play in its survival? You, the forest and forever, close your eyes and breathe with the trees. Their slow wisdom steadies your restless heart. In their patience you find your own calm rhythm. The forest endures, and within its story you endure too. You have walked with the forest through its roots and networks, its warnings and memories, its canopy and its endings. You have seen how trees share life, how they shape climate, how they sing in diversity, and how they bond with you. You have also heard the silence that threatens them, and in that silence the echo of your own vulnerability. Now you arrive at the final clearing of this journey, a place not of endings but of perspective. For the story of the forest does not conclude here. It stretches beyond you into futures you cannot see, just as it stretches backward into ages long before you were born. To sit with trees is to sit within forever. Pause and breathe. Inhale deeply. You are inhaling the patience of leaves, the memory of seasons, the generosity of roots. Exhale gently. You are offering the forest food, your carbon, the substance that fuels its quiet work. This rhythm binds you, endlessly repeating, the forest breathes in you, and you breathe in the forest. The science of this bond is simple, yet profound. Photosynthesis, respiration, processes that sustain all life. But when you frame them poetically, you realize they are also forms of love. Trees give what you need, you give what they need, neither asks, neither demands, both simply exist in relationship. This relationship stretches through time. Long before humans, trees shaped the atmosphere, filling it with oxygen, making life possible. If you trace your breath backward through history, you arrive at ancient forests, long turned to coal, long buried beneath the earth. They breathed, and because they breathed, you live. Think forward now. Every tree planted today may outlive you, may outlive your children, may still be standing in centuries. Its rings will hold the memory of storms you never felt, of winters yet to come. Your touch, your planting, your care ripple into futures far beyond your own span. In this way, the forest allows you to step into forever. And forever is not abstract. It is built from cycles. A seed falls, roots reach, trunk rises, canopy spreads, leaves fall, trunk returns to soil. Around and around, life becomes death, and death becomes life. This cycle is the forest's eternity. Not endless in stillness, but endless in renewal. When you walk in a forest, you are inside this cycle. The soil beneath you is formed from countless trees that once stood, now return to earth. The air above you is enriched by leaves alive today. The seeds scattered at your feet will become the canopy of tomorrow. Past, present, future, all woven into the same living moment. This is what forever feels like. Not infinite time, but infinite continuity. Pause here and let your body rest in this thought. Your heart beats, your lungs expand, your cells divide. You too are part of a cycle. You too will one day return to soil, to air, to energy that feeds others. The forest is not separate from you. It is a mirror of your own eternity. Consider how this reflection shapes your choices. When you cut a tree, you alter the cycle. When you plant one, you extend it. When you walk mindfully in a grove, you remember your place within it. Forever is not distant. Forever is here, in the choices you make, in the rhythms you live, in the breaths you take. And there is comfort in this, for if the forest endures, then part of you endures with it. Even when your own life feels fleeting, you can rest in the knowledge that the larger cycle continues. The roots remember, the rings remember, the soil remembers. You are held inside this memory, safe within the patience of the trees. Think of the way trees stand in storms. Winds bend them, rains drench them, yet they remain. Their endurance is not resistance but flexibility. They sway, they yield, they adapt. Perhaps this is why they feel like teachers. They remind you that forever is not about never breaking. It is about bending, adjusting, finding balance again and again. And think of their silence. Trees do not hurry to speak. Their messages travel in slow chemistry, in scents on the breeze, in growth that takes decades. They remind you that forever does not require urgency. It unfolds slowly, patiently, in rhythms larger than your own. Close your eyes once more and imagine yourself lying beneath a canopy. Light filters through leaves, the wind carries fragrance, roots stretch beneath you unseen. You are small here, yet not insignificant. You are part of something vast, something steady, something that will continue long after your last breath. This is not a reason for sorrow. It is a reason for peace. For to be part of forever is to be free from the fear of ending. You are not a separate story. You are a chapter in the book of the forest, and the book is still being written. Look around at the forest's diversity, oaks and pines, maples and mosses, fungi glowing faintly at night. Each species, each life is a note in a vast symphony. You are one note too, brief perhaps but essential. Without your note, the song would be incomplete. The forest sings and you sing with it. This song is forever. Science too affirms this song. Ecologists remind us that forests stabilize climate, recycle water, create oxygen and hold carbon. Without them, human life would falter. But beyond survival, forests also sustain the human spirit. They give meaning, peace, belonging. Forever is not only about molecules and climate, it is also about memory and soul. And so you find yourself here at the end of this journey, yet not at an end at all. The forest continues, its story stretches forward, and within its story your story continues too, in breath, in soil, in memory, in seed. Take one last slow breath with the forest. Feel its rhythm enter you. Feel your rhythm join it. You are not apart. You are part. This is the bond that holds you forever.